If you drive down the Bayfront Expressway in Menlo Park, California, and turn onto One Hacker Way, you will see a large sign at the entrance to one of the most valuable corporate campuses in the world. On the front, the logo reads Meta, but walk around to the back, the side facing the parking lot, and you will find a second logo, older and faded, still bolted to the same frame. It reads Sun Microsystems. When Facebook bought this campus in 2011, Mark Zuckerberg did not replace the sign. He flipped it, painted his company's name on one side and left the old one visible on the other, as a warning to every employee walking to their car at the end of the day. This is what happens, the sign says, without saying it, when a company fails. But the company behind that faded logo did not simply fail. At its peak, Sun Microsystems was worth $200 billion, employed over 43,000 people, and built a programming language now running on billions of devices worldwide. Oracle bought what remained in 2010 for $7.4 billion. This is the story of a company that built the internet's foundation and could not figure out how to charge rent. You're watching American Electronics and Tech Channel, where we take apart the companies that built the electronic world, down to the circuit board and the engineer who designed it. Sun Microsystems built more of that world than most people realize, and the way it lost everything is as strange as the way it built it. If that's your kind of story, subscribe and hit like, because this one has a very long way to fall. The story begins not in Silicon Valley, but in rural Bavaria. Andreas Bechtolsheim was born in 1955 in a farmhouse near Ammersee, with no television and no close neighbors. He filled the silence with electronics. By the age of 16, he had designed an industrial controller based on the Intel 8008 and programmed it in raw binary code because he had no access to an assembler. In 1977, he arrived in Silicon Valley on an internship offer from Intel, then enrolled at Stanford as a doctoral student in electrical engineering. At Stanford, Bechtolsheim became an unpaid consultant at Xerox PARC, the legendary research center in Palo Alto, where the modern computer interface had been invented, and then in one of American technology's most painful recurring patterns, largely ignored by the company that paid for it. Bechtolsheim saw the Xerox Alto, a networked workstation with a high-resolution display, a mouse, and a graphical interface, and understood immediately what Xerox did not. This machine, made cheaper and built on open standards, could replace every time-sharing terminal in every university lab in the country. He went back to Stanford and built one. Using spare parts from the engineering department and components from Silicon Valley surplus houses, Bechtolsheim assembled a workstation running Unix with built-in Ethernet networking and connected it to Stanford's campus network. He called it the Stanford University Network Workstation. The acronym was SUN. The prototype sat on a bench in a Stanford lab. It was fast, it was networked, it was open, and Stanford had no interest in manufacturing computers, but someone else did. On February 24, 1982, three 26-year-old Stanford graduates incorporated Sun Microsystems. Bechtolsheim was vice president of technology, the man with the hardware. Vinod Khosla, an MBA with a fierce instinct for scaling fast, became the first chief executive. Scott McNeely, a manufacturing specialist who had worked as a foreman on a UAW shop floor, took charge of operations. Within weeks, they recruited Bill Joy from UC Berkeley, a man already famous in computer science, for creating the Berkeley software distribution of Unix and for adding the TCP/IP networking stack that would one day carry the entire internet. Joy became the fourth founder, and his presence told every serious software engineer in the country that Sun was not a toy. The first workstations were assembled in a rented building, and the founding team did something that became a small legend at company reunions decades later. They built the machines on the floor, not on workbenches, not on assembly tables. On the bare cement, kneeling. Nobody thought to buy tables. They simply started building and never stopped long enough to reconsider the furniture. Computer Vision, a company that made CAD software for engineers, became Sun's first major customer, and by July 1982, 5 months after incorporation, Sun Microsystems posted a profit. It would not lose money for years, but the Motorola processors powering those early workstations were already approaching their performance ceiling, and Sun was going to need something faster. The mid-1980s belonged to closed proprietary systems. IBM, Digital Equipment Corporation, and Apollo Computer dominated the industry, and their model was straightforward. Buy our hardware, use our software, never leave. Sun's weapon was the opposite. Open systems, Unix, TCP/IP. If your competitor locked customers in, you set them free and trusted that freedom would bring them to you. In 1984, Bill Joy designed the Network File System, a protocol that allowed computers of any make to share files across a network. Sun gave it away, licensed it free to the entire industry. It was a brilliant competitive move, and it was the first clear signal of a pattern that would eventually become fatal. Give away the software to sell the hardware. That same year, Khosla left, having achieved his stated ambition of retiring as a millionaire before 30. He joined Kleiner Perkins as a venture capitalist. McNeely took over as chief executive at 29, and he would hold the job for 22 years, becoming the loudest, most combative, most quotable voice in Silicon Valley. Under McNeely, Sun displaced Apollo Computer as the leader in the workstation market. But the Motorola 68,000 processors were falling behind, and Sun's engineering team knew that buying someone else's chips meant living on someone else's schedule. To stay ahead, Sun would have to do something most companies its size considered reckless. It would have to design its own processor from scratch. In 1984, a small team of Sun engineers began designing a 32-bit RISC processor they called Spark for scalable processor architecture. The concept was academically proven but commercially untested, and inside Sun, the reaction was split between ambition and raw fear. The marketing department had made a horrifying discovery. Spark, spelled backward, was craps. Team members swore an oath never to utter that word aloud, terrified that their arch-rival MIPS Technologies would find out. McNeely visited the lab and made a prediction. Spark, he said, would take Sun from a $500 million company to a $1 billion company. The first Spark-based products shipped in 1987, and the workstation market shifted overnight. But the real story happened off the books. By 1987, Sun's VP of engineering refused to put the Spark chip into a desktop workstation, calling the idea too risky. Andy Bechtolsheim, the man who had built the original Sun prototype from surplus parts on a Stanford bench, did not argue. He left. He founded a separate company called Unisun, funded by Vinod Khosla's venture firm, and quietly began building exactly the desktop workstation that Sun's own management had rejected. The cover story was that Unisun would serve the university market. The truth was that Bechtolsheim was building a general-purpose machine. Within months, Sun's board recognized what they had let walk out the door and bought Unisun back at cost. The result was the Spark Station 1, codenamed Campus. It shipped in July 1989 at a price of $9,000 in a slim 3-inch high enclosure the industry called the pizza box. It ran at 20 megahertz, 3 times faster than the Sun 3 it replaced, and every competitor in the market was still waiting on Motorola's next chip. The Spark Station 1 became Sun's best-selling workstation, and the engineer the executives had overruled had built the product that proved them wrong. In the mid-1980s, John Gage, Sun's chief researcher and employee number 5, coined a slogan that most of the industry considered either audacious or confused. The network is the computer. At a time when personal computers were standalone boxes on desks with no meaningful connection to each other, the idea that a computer's real value came from what it was connected to sounded like philosophy. It was not philosophy, it was prophecy. Sun embedded TCP/IP networking into the core of its Solaris operating system years before Microsoft acknowledged that the internet existed. By 1988, just 6 years after incorporation, Sun crossed $1 billion in annual revenue, among the fastest computer companies in history to reach that milestone. Then, in 1991, a Canadian engineer named James Gosling started a small internal project at Sun called the Green Project. The goal was to build a programming language for interactive television set-top boxes. Gosling named the language Oak, after the tree outside his office window. The set-top box market went nowhere, and Oak should have died quietly with it. But the internet arrived, and Gosling's language turned out to be perfectly built for a networked world. It was platform independent. Write the code once and it runs anywhere, on any machine, on any operating system. Sun renamed it Java, released it in 1995, and gave the runtime environment away free, believing that Java's ubiquity would drive sales of Sun's high-end servers. Java exploded across the web. The strategy worked, and the trap was set. By the late 1990s, Sun Microsystems was the arms dealer of the internet. Between 1988 and 1998, revenues grew at an average annual rate of 34%, and net income grew at 41%. The stock split 4 times between 1995 and 2000. By the year 2000, Sun's market capitalization reached approximately $200 billion, with the stock trading above $64 a share, over $250 on a split-adjusted basis. At its peak in fiscal 2001, the company reported $18.3 billion in revenue and employed roughly 43,200 people worldwide. eBay ran on Sun servers. Yahoo ran on Sun servers. Amazon ran on Sun servers. Sun's marketing department captured the moment in 5 words that were, for a brief and extraordinary window, simply true. We put the dot in .com. The Spark Station had launched a product line that dominated the workstation market for a decade. By 1995, Sun was shipping over 300,000 Spark-based units a year and holding 40% of the traditional workstation market. The Pizza Box workstations sat on engineering desks, in university labs, on Wall Street trading floors, and in government offices across the country. They were built to last, and many of them did, far longer than the company that made them. The Spark Station was not a consumer product designed to impress on a showroom floor. It was a tool, and the engineers and researchers who used it daily trusted it the way a machinist trusts a good lathe. That trust was the product's true legacy. Java, meanwhile, had become something larger than a programming language. James Gosling's creation, born from a failed set-top box experiment, was now running inside web browsers, powering enterprise applications, and forming the backbone of the new internet economy. Sun gave the runtime away free, and developers around the world built on top of it. But IBM, BEA Systems, and a growing list of competitors adopted Java and built their own commercial tools around it, capitalizing on Sun's invention, while Sun struggled to draw a direct line from Java's ubiquity to its own revenue. The company had created the most widely adopted programming platform of its generation and could not figure out how to put a meter on it. The seeds of the fall were planted in plain sight. Sun had given away NFS in 1984 to sell hardware. It had given away Java in 1995 to sell servers. Each act of generosity expanded Sun's influence and contracted its leverage. The software was the thing everyone wanted. The hardware was the thing Sun charged for. And the distance between those two facts was widening every quarter. In the boardrooms, nobody used the word unsustainable. Revenue was soaring, the stock was at historic highs, and the internet looked like it would keep expanding forever. It did not. The dot-com bubble burst in the spring of 2000, and Sun's customer base collapsed with it. The startups that had bought Sun servers by the rack were burning through their last venture capital and canceling orders. First quarter fiscal 2002 sales plunged 43% year over year. In October 2001 at Sun Network, the company's own flagship customer conference, management announced 3,900 layoffs, 9% of the workforce. Revenue fell from $18.3 billion to $12.5 billion in fiscal 2002, and down to $11 billion by fiscal 2005. It never recovered. The deeper threat was structural. Linux, a free open-source operating system, was good enough to run on cheap x86 servers from Dell and Hewlett-Packard, machines that cost a fraction of what Sun's SPARC systems demanded. For most workloads, good enough at half the price beat excellent at full price, and the market shifted beneath Sun's feet. You can read Sun's failure to pivot two honest ways. One says the executives were protecting the profitable core business that funded all the research and all the generosity, the rational choice of experienced managers defending their strongest product line. The other says they were caught in a textbook innovator's dilemma, refusing to cannibalize their own margins the way Intel had done repeatedly, choosing short-term revenue over long-term survival. Both readings are defensible, and honest history holds them both at once. What is not defensible is the outcome. The stock lost over 90% of its peak value by 2002, and the worst was still ahead. In 2006, McNeely stepped down as chief executive after 22 years and handed the role to Jonathan Schwartz. In 2007, Sun changed its stock ticker from SunW to Java, a signal that the company saw its future in software, not hardware. The stock did not respond. The underlying financials had not changed. In 2008, Sun acquired MySQL, the open-source database, for $1 billion. The move positioned Sun directly against Oracle in the database market. It also put a target on the company's back. That same year, the global financial crisis hit, and Sun's largest customers, the banks and financial institutions that had been its bedrock, slashed IT spending. Sun posted a loss of $1.68 billion in a single quarter. The company announced 6,000 more layoffs, 18% of its remaining workforce. The stock, which had traded at $25 during the brief optimism of 2007, collapsed to under $5. In early 2009, IBM entered acquisition talks with Sun. They collapsed over price and structure. On April 20, 2009, Oracle announced it would acquire Sun Microsystems for $7.4 billion, $9.50 a share. A company once valued at $200 billion sold for less than 4 cents on the dollar of its peak. Larry Ellison called Java the single most important software asset we have ever acquired. He meant it. Within months of closing the deal in January 2010, Oracle sued Google for $8.8 billion over Android's use of Java APIs. The case lasted more than a decade before the Supreme Court ruled 6-2 in Google's favor in 2021. The language Sun had given away free became the subject of one of the largest copyright battles in American history, fought entirely by companies that did not create it. Sun was already gone. The last day of trading for Sun Microsystems stock was January 26, 2010. Over the preceding decade, the company had laid off tens of thousands of people in wave after wave after wave. The workforce that remained was absorbed into Oracle and quietly reduced further. The name disappeared from the buildings. Java runs on everything. 30% of professional developers still use it. It ranks third on the TIOBE index. Android, built on Java APIs, runs on more than 2.5 billion active devices. Every time someone opens an app on an Android phone, they are touching James Gosling's work, written in a Sun Microsystems office more than 30 years ago, for a set-top box that never sold. NFS, the file-sharing protocol Bill Joy designed and Sun gave away in 1984, remains a standard in enterprise networking today. ZFS and dTerrace, two more Sun creations, now run on Linux, FreeBSD, and Mac OS under open-source licenses. VirtualBox runs on millions of desktops worldwide. Sun's people scattered across Silicon Valley and seeded the next generation. Andy Bechtolsheim, the graduate student who had built the first prototype from spare parts, wrote a check for $100,000 to two Stanford students named Larry Page and Sergey Brin in September 1998. The check was made out to a company called Google. Google had not yet been legally incorporated. Sun alumni went on to lead Google, Yahoo, and Motorola. The company was gone, but its fingerprints were on everything that came after it. The network had become the computer, exactly as John Gage said it would. And then there is the sign. In Menlo Park, at 1 Hacker Way, the sign still stands. Meta's logo on the front, Sun's logo on the back facing the parking lot, half hidden by the landscaping. Zuckerberg kept it as a reminder of what happens when a company takes its eye off the ball. But Sun did not take its eye off the ball. Sun saw the ball more clearly than anyone in the industry. It saw that the network was the computer. It saw that open platforms would win. It saw that software would define the future. It built Java and NFS and Spark and Solaris and gave most of it away because it believed that generosity was good strategy. The company was right about the future of technology. It was wrong about who would profit from it. Sun did not fail to see the future. Sun built the future, gave it away, and watched from the side of the road as everyone else drove off in it. If you worked at Sun, wrote code in Java, before the rest of the world caught on, or ran a Spark station that still boots today, drop a comment below. Tell us the model, the year, and what it meant to you. The people who built these machines and the people who used them know what was lost better than the balance sheets ever will. Subscribe, because we are building the archive of American technology one company at a time. And we have the story of another American tech empire coming next. You will not want to miss how it ends.